What's up guys, welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to be looking at Reddit post that was actually posted by I'm Rubik, and he has gone over basically everything that happened in the January RuneScape design Q&A, and he's done a too long didn't watch version of that. So we're going to go through this and take a look at what questions were actually asked and what the answers were given from the JMods on the actual stream. So it should be interesting. There's quite a lot in here. I had a quick skim through it, and there is definitely a lot that if you haven't seen the stream, you're going to want to hear about what's going on. So as you can see, the topics here are timestamped for the actual stream. So what I'm going to do is, rather than link the stream and then or whatever, I'm going to actually link the Reddit post, seeing as this is the material that I'm using. So one, link the Reddit post for the credit of it as well, and two, then you can come here, you can find the Twitch and YouTube VOD from the top here as well, and all the timestamps are here for you guys too, so you don't have to go through and go hunt through and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that's probably the best way to do it. Anyway, if you enjoy this sort of content, leave a like, sub to the channel if you're new, and let's get started. Also, apologies for my voice. Yes, sick again, but it is what it is. Let's just go. So general stuff. The next community manager will be joining us late February, early March. Okay. If you have alternative suggestions to upgrading the Passage of the Abyss, share them with the JMods. And also Modjack plans to do more design live streams this year. When Modjack does his streams, you usually get quite a lot of information and good answers from stuff, at least in my opinion, so it's always good to see. So I'm glad that he plans on doing more as well. I think he's mentioned as well in the past that he wants to do a few dedicated streams to specific topics as well. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head what exactly those topics were. I think one of them's mentioned further down, but that would be freaking awesome to see too, so always good to see. Anyway, topics. We are looking to talk about what fixes are being worked on because plans may change. For example, we may to put more work, may want to put, I assume, more work into something to do every part justice rather than fix one small part of a larger problem. So when we have concrete information, we will share it with you. Right, so these are the topics here. Player avatar refresh, which you can see further down already, skill cape perks, combat and accessibility, max guild, archaeology, relic system, craftable range on magic equipment, wilderness reborn, and drop rates and bad luck mitigation. So there's quite a lot of stuff in here to talk about, but we'll get through it. It's absolutely fine. So the player avatar refresh. The question was, what is the status of the player avatar refresh? This was obviously the character model rework or upgrade or whatever, and it's been shelved. It's not going to happen. They say it's not in the plan for 2023. There is a huge scope for this project and will require a lot of work, and the team has decided to prioritize other projects. It could still happen in the future, but there are no current plans. While there are short-term alternative approaches of restricting new outfits to a new avatar, that's not what we want to do, since it will be jarring. Okay, so I think we heard a little while ago this is probably shelved. I don't know if it's been announced by anyone or anything like that, or confirmed before this. We can now safely say that yes, the player upgrade is shelved, and it's when they say it's not a plan for 2023, I would probably quite comfortably say it likely won't come for a while, even maybe next year as well. We don't know for sure. They could pick it up and say, yeah, no, we can do it now, but we're not going to see it this year, pretty much, which is fair enough. I mean, if they do content and it's good content, then it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't matter. I can understand why a lot of people were excited for this, and it would be good for like newer players seeing it and stuff like that, seeing like a better character model, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't change the core gameplay, which is probably why they've not prioritized it. Skill cape perks. Are there any plans to change some of the skill cape perks? The premise of a skill cape perk needs rethinking first. So they're saying here it makes sense intuitively for a skill cape to have a perk, but it's also an annoyance to have it on the skill cape rather than a passive. So I completely agree with this. This is kind of cool, but then also you kind of, if it's a passive, you kind of got to think about what's OP and what's not, right? What exactly is the aim of a skill cape perk? To provide XP, GP, or make the skill easier. I don't think it needs to do either of these personally. I think it can do these, but I think you could also just have something like quite cool and convenient about it as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be XP, GP, or make the skill easier. It could just be a very convenient thing, but again, it would take a lot of design, a lot of thought of this. So yeah, the smithing one effectively adds a new training style with 2-tick smithing, but is that what they should do? What if the skill cap is raised to 120? Should this be the new training style? Yeah, so there's quite a lot to think about with that. I'm sure they'll get to it though. Combat accessibility. Will combat ever be made more accessible? Yes, but that does not necessarily mean easier. This was a very good answer, in my opinion. they need, I don't know how they're going to go about doing this, because this is it's a good answer, but it's a very difficult answer to follow up with, in my opinion at least. So, because they're saying it depends on what our end goal with combat is. There are a lot of niche systems in combat which are untouched that we want to clean up and make more accessible, but we don't want to remove the challenge from bossing. The issue is determining the performance gap between sweaty methods and non-sweaty methods. How much more reward should you be if exerting X amount of effort? In addition, the player's focusing combat is in the wrong place. Looking at their action bar, it feels unintuitive and convoluted. You should be focusing on the monster's mechanics. High APM combat and the focus on basic ability rotations is really only concerned for players who don't use revolution, which isn't necessary for most bosses. Okay, so it's a really good answer in my opinion. And I think that they are on the right sort of thing with what they're saying here. Like they need to make it more friendly, user friendly for beginner players and keep people in the game, because a lot of people will start, right, and they'll be like, oh, this is so confusing and I hate it and it just stresses me out, and they either just won't PVM, or they'll be scared to try PVM, or they'll just give up on the game. But at the same time, you don't want to punish the players who have learned so much stuff and put effort in by dumbing it down and making it not as like, rewarding or challenging, because if you do that, then there's players that are already really damn good at the game and can like do ridiculous challenges and stuff. They're just going to get bored, right? And that's just the same sort of thing. And also you need to keep in mind that if they make combat easier, those players that are even already like amazing at it are going to push everything even more to a limit and just get more out of it anyway, right? But the issue is determining the performance gap between sweaty methods and non-sweaty methods. So this here, to me, is something that RuneScape has a bit of a weird thing with. Everybody seems to think that you have to take every switch that's good and every little item that's going to help and every little buff that you can get. But then there's same people will complain that there's too much that you have to take and there's too much switching and too much effort. You don't have to do this, and I've made videos in the past showing that you can do bossing with no switches, with none of this extra stuff. You can do it. You just have to be okay with the slow kill times. That's just how it is, and that's what Jagex is saying. But like, people aren't okay with that. So if they see that the average for players who are really putting effort in is like 3-minute kill time somewhere, people aren't happy with a 5-minute kill if it means that they don't take all of the extra stuff. So they try and take it and then they get frustrated, they have to take all the stuff, and you don't have to. It's just that other players are doing that, so they definitely should be rewarded for it. So it's a bit of a difficult one, but I'm sure they seem to have put thought into it. So that's good. Max Guild, are there any plans to revisit and give the Max Guild some more usage? There are no plans, but would most likely help players get to other places they want to quicker. They're saying in here that they don't like the idea of having everything close together in one place, because then it stops people going around the world, which I completely agree with. It's definitely something that it would be a bit crap if everyone was just in the Max Guild, nothing else would actually matter. Kind of like War's Retreat in one way, but nowhere near as bad. Like War's Retreat's nowhere near as bad as what this would be, so that's good. But here as well, they're saying that they would rather make it so it helps players get to the places they want to get to quicker, so I think that's probably a good idea. Archaeology relic system. Does Jagex have any plans to improve the luck relics or enhancers to find other attempts to improving Switch game? In terms of improving the relic, unlikely. Why does everybody want everything? Why can't there be room for choices made and choosing your priorities? The relic system is trying to do exactly that by providing mutually exclusive choices. And then it says relic presets. So like the idea of relic presets, where swapping presets would be cheaper. However, archaeology fundamentally needs relic cost to function economically, since chronotes need to go somewhere. When I read this before, I completely understand what they're saying. You want to be able to one-time buy relics, because then you can, chronotes are just going to end up being they're not worth it. There's too many of them. I guess what you could do though is have like a kind of like a coffer or something where you can deposit chronotes in. So you could deposit like, I don't know, 1 million chronotes. I know that's a lot, but like and a big amount of chronotes, and then every time you change the relic, it then takes that amount of stuff off of you, and it just applies the relic to you. So it will still charge you for the chronotes, but it will just be a quick change, and all you have to do is put the chronotes in. So that's one thing that could work, in my opinion, if they can design it like that. I don't know if that works, but that could work. Kind of like when you change a boss ball, it charges you for coins to change the boss ball. Here you just put the money, you put the chronotes into a little thing, and then it charges you for the chronotes as you change the relic preset. I think that should be fine, assuming that obviously if you're changing to something else like a ring or something like that, then you would need that stuff too. I don't really know exactly if that would be an issue, if you could figure a way around that, or if you only need to use it once and then you just need the chronotes. But yeah, how many chronotes would it cost to permanently switch a relic? Millions. So yeah, I think what I'll say about this would probably make more sense. Craftable range of magic equipment. Are there any plans to bring craftable ranged magic armor and their respective skills into parity with melee in the near future? Our mid to long term strategy is to work towards doing this. Okay. So they're saying that they want us to be able to craft range and magic armor, kind of like what's happening with melee, but they're saying why craft 280 short bows? There are also obstacles with how fletching is balanced, wood cutting is structured, and does magic gear come from rune crafting? If so, how? So it's something they want to look at, but they haven't got the answers for it just yet. But still cool to see. And would magic gear come from rune crafting, or do we need a new skill? I don't know. Would magic gear not just come from crafting? Maybe crafting and magic? I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. Wilderness Reborn. Wilderness Reborn seems to have been quite successful in reinvigorating interest in that region. What lessons has the team learned from it over the past few months? This is a really interesting one. Our takeaway is that the Wilderness Reborn hasn't worked out. We'll be removing the threat system in the future. This is quite a big one. So the Wilderness did become more accessible, but we wanted to substitute PvP risk for PvM risk. The threat system failed at doing this and became more of an annoyance. This is very true. The players who were engaged with the Wilderness aren't engaging with the risk versus reward element. No, of course not, because you don't need to. We've discussed the best way to deal with it, and we've decided to remove the threat system and tweak the balance of the content, which assumed its existence Mandrith. The alternative is to rework the threat system, but even that may not work. There's no timeline when this will happen, but we have devs looking at the problems. This doesn't mean we won't add risky content to the Wilderness, such as engaging with it is dangerous, but we won't make the Wilderness itself dangerous to enter. Okay, can we also make it so opting into PvP is like a temporary thing? If you take a skull and then you come back out and it's fixed, maybe, Jagex? Just a little thing. But yeah, fair enough. The Wilderness threat system was just an annoyance, and all I ever heard was people complaining about it. So I'm glad that they see this and they're going to have a look at it. Could you address the Dark Onyx core concerns? We understand the complaints, but we don't think it's intrinsically too rare. Okay, fair enough. We're not going to read on this. If you want to pause and have a look, then sure. Or I'll link the actual post and thing. Drop rates, bad luck mitigation. Drop rates, question. We need a whole stream to go into detail. However, we are continuing to look at the problem to find the correct approach or solution. So there's a balance between making items too rare for casual players and too common for players who play 18 hours a day, grinding them out. Since these drops are tradable, these grinders contribute a majority of the drops in the economy. This is true. One big aspect of the Raptors Rampage event was that Shogun spent some time tidying up the drop table code, which allows for changes to be made more reliably in the future. It was also an experiment of letting casual players experience a daily drop boost if we go down that route again in the future. There was a conspiracy theory that it wasn't implemented, but it definitely was. However, it's difficult to choose what the multiplier should be. If it was too low, it feels like nothing. If it's too large, it would have a big impact on the economy. Finally, we need to address how the endgame going to work. Finally, we need to address how the endgame is going to work, because currently we are creating staggeringly rare drops with uncapped grinding. The problem no one can agree on. The problem is no one can agree on alternative options. Yeah, so the drop rates and stuff is very hard, especially if you are trying to balance it for casual players too. Which I think for RuneScape 3 you definitely do need to consider, because there is more casual players, and I know this for a fact, there is more casual players than there is like top tier elite players that play all the time, all day, every day. It's just true. There's just way more casual players, so you definitely need to account for those guys. So it is what it is. So this is very hard for them to actually fix, in my opinion, and they are trying different things, and I think we probably I don't know if we will see like a solid decision on how they're going to do this in the close future. Bad luck mitigation, they say, I'm not opposed to it, but it doesn't solve all the problems. They say there's an approach where bad luck mitigation has little effectiveness early on and gains effectiveness based on how many kills you are dry on, but that would only benefit players going for collection logs and grinding a lot. If you want to implement it for casual players, we will be taking the aggressive implementation, which essentially is just buffing the drop rate. So what they're saying here is bad luck mitigation works, but at the same time, you kind of put yourself in the same position where you might as well just buff the drop rates, right? Because a casual player can only stack the bad luck mitigation as much as a as normal anyway, but like someone who's just grinding over and over and over again is going to be taking advantage of that bad luck mitigation even more, and it'll benefit them a lot more because they're going to get a lot more kills in, they're going to get a lot more drops out of it. So yeah, so it makes sense what they're saying. This is a very, very difficult one in my opinion. So I don't really have a solution for it myself. Do you guys have anything? Let me know in the comments. But that's pretty much it. There's not really much else in here. This is huge though, in my opinion. There's a lot of good things in here, a lot of good information, and a lot of big questions and topics. Are you sad about the avatar refresh? Are you interested in any of the other things? Let me know in the comments. Hopefully you'll find this useful if you haven't seen it. I'm only just like caught up on it myself, so this was first for me when I skimmed through it before. If you enjoyed the video, if you found this stuff useful, please do leave a like, do sub to the channel if you are new, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later guys, bye.